We live? Yes, we are. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka G Lauren 33. I want to welcome you guys back here to the Legit Shoot podcast. We are here tonight with your official WWE Backlash 2020 full show review right here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on your Sunday night. Thank you guys for all the love and the support. It's been a very long week. A lot of stuff has been going on. Everything building up to WWE Backlash 2020 tonight, where we had what was advertised as the greatest wrestling match ever between Randy Orton and Edge. And did it deliver? Did we see the greatest wrestling match of all time here tonight? I will let you guys my thoughts on all of that on tonight's podcast. We also had Sasha Banks, the best female wrestler in the world, and her best friend Bayley defending the WWE Women's Tag Team titles against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross and the Moronics, aka the Iconics. We also had a WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's first WWE Championship match in 13 years. Did we crown a new WWE Champion tonight? We also had on SmackDown the Universal Champion Braun Strowman defending his title in a 2-on-1 handicap match up against Miz and Morrison. We also had a Raw Tag Team title match, or a cinematic match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, which was very odd and very weird, which we will discuss. On the pre-show, we had Apollo Crews defending his United States Championship against Andrade, and we also had Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax. I will give you guys my thoughts and all that and more on tonight's Backlash review. Once again, thank you guys for joining me. All right, it's been a long week of recording. We had the Raw review on Monday. Let me take a sip of my water. We had the SmackDown review on Friday. We had a couple of extra podcast segments throughout the last couple of weeks. And, you know, even though I'm a little bit tired, but you guys know I have to come on here and give you guys my thought and give you guys my opinion on all things WWE. So thank you guys for spending some time out of your day listening to me. No matter if you guys are watching on the live stream on YouTube, no matter if you guys are watching on demand after the stream, or if you guys are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you guys listen to your shows. No matter if you're listening, watching, whatever, however you guys are hearing my voice, thank you so much for support. If you guys are new to the channel, as always, make sure to subscribe. Click the bell right next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Also, thank you to everyone who live tweeted with me on Twitter tonight. You guys know I love talking to you guys about wrestling, anime, all those types of things. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter and you guys want to talk to me about wrestling or anything in general, man, the link is in the description down below. It's gonna be a crazy week. We got Raw, we got NXT and SmackDown, and the build towards Extreme Rules starts tomorrow night with Monday Night Raw. So definitely we keep going. You know, even though Backlash is in the rear view mirror, we keep going. The road to SummerSlam is continuing as we start building towards the next pay-per-view, Extreme Rules, which I believe is supposed to take place July 18th, if I am correct. But either way, before we can get to Extreme Rules, we need to talk about Backlash tonight. And my initial thoughts on Backlash, my initial thoughts on the show tonight. Was this a good pay-per-view? I was honestly 50-50 on this show going into the main event, because there were some things I liked. I liked the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which we'll discuss in a couple moments. I really enjoyed the Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley WWE Championship match. But everything else, really, other than those two things, I didn't really enjoy. The Asuka versus Nia Jax match kind of sucked, because, you know, Nia Jax is just not that good. Let's be serious here. Braun Strowman versus Miz and Morrison, that sucked. I hated that, you know, and this was all, they only gave us this match because Bray Wyatt just had a child, and we know that they're going to continue Bray Wyatt and The Fiend are going up against Braun Strowman in, you know, Wyatt's quest to regain the Universal title, going into Extreme Rules, and probably also SummerSlam as well. Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, the match was okay. You know, I did like the ending, but Jeff just didn't seem like he can go the distance anymore. You know, like halfway through the match, Jeff looked like he was spent, and he had to rely on Sheamus to finish off that match. Even though in the end, it was a decent match for what it was. And don't get me started on the Raw Tag Team Championship scene. That was atrocious. Here's my thing. I've been saying this for weeks. It's not that I don't mind what they've been doing with the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, but if you had a division, I wouldn't mind it at all. But the fact is, these are the only 2 tag teams in the Raw Tag Team division. And instead of having them wrestle for the Raw Tag Team titles, they rather do these cinematic nonsense with them. All right, and one of the funny things is the Revival, who got released by WWE a couple months ago, they tweeted after seeing that cinematic garbage between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, and they tweeted like, "Yes, we are happy." Even though they didn't say anything about WWE, you could easily tell that they knew what was going on with the Raw Tag Team title match tonight. So going to the main event, I was 50-50. I was about to give this show a thumbs low, but Edge and Randy Orton saved this show tonight. They saved Backlash. They saved this pay-per-view. In the match that was advertised as the greatest wrestling match ever, it wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever. Let's be serious. And yes, it's subjective. Everybody has their own opinion on what is the greatest wrestling match of all time. Now, me personally, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. That's the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen. I go back and watch that, that match maybe once every couple months. I love that match for so many reasons. Sasha Banks versus Bayley, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I say this almost every week on the pod. Greatest women's wrestling match of all time. One of my all-time favorite matches. All right? In my opinion, the best female wrestling match we've ever seen in WWE. It's one of the reasons why we want to see Sasha Banks and Bayley take place on the main roster so badly. Because we know how that will deliver. Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. Pick any one of their matches. All right? Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, specifically NXT TakeOver Brooklyn or New York last year. So many great matches to choose from, but in my opinion, those are the matches that I think of when I'm thinking greatest wrestling matches of all time. Another match you can put, in my opinion, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels back in 2005. There's so many to pick from, but in my opinion, those are the matches that come to my mind when I think greatest wrestling match ever. Edge versus Randy Orton. Will I go back and rewatch this match? When I'm talking to my friends, when I'm talking about the greatest wrestling matches of all time, matches that people should go onto the WWE Network and rewatch, will I say Edge and Randy Orton? Well, I will tell them definitely it's a great match to watch, but I'm not going to say it's the greatest wrestling match ever. Edge and Randy Orton absolutely kicked ass tonight. That will probably go down as one of the greatest matches in both the careers of Edge and Randy Orton. If you look at Edge and Randy Orton, they are 2 WWE Hall of Famers, 2 of the best of all time. But when you think of them, you don't really think greatest wrestling matches ever. You look back at their careers, there's only a handful of matches that you can really call their best matches ever. And when you think of the top 50, top 100, top 10, best WWE matches of all time, it's really, if I was to make a list, which would take me forever, but if I was to really make a list of the top 100 wrestling matches of all time, I don't know, honestly, if I'm going to have an Edge or a Randy Orton match in there. I don't. All right? But, hey, everyone has their own opinion. The match was spectacular. It was easily the best match of the night. Was it better than Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles? I don't know, to be honest with you. Honestly, after seeing what AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan did just Friday on SmackDown, we thought, hey, that could be Match of the Year candidate if you take out the commercial breaks. But now seeing what Edge and Randy Orton did, we all thought going into Backlash that, coming out of the show, we would be saying they should have put AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan in the place of Edge and Randy Orton. But you can't say that anymore. The match Edge and Randy Orton put on tonight was fucking spectacular. It was fantastic. But I just don't know if I can call it the best wrestling. I don't know if I can call it better than AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. I'll probably have to go back and rewatch and let you guys know later on. But it was great. It was absolutely amazing. And like I said, when we look back at the careers of Edge and Randy Orton, when both are all fully retired, I will definitely think Edge and Randy Orton. I would definitely think of this match when think of the best matches and the best moments of their career. It delivered. It delivered. And we will definitely talk a lot more about Edge and Randy Orton when we get to the match itself a little bit later on into the podcast. But I wanted to give you guys my initial thoughts on it. Edge and Randy Orton delivered. It was like 35 minutes. Did it drag a little bit? Maybe, but it was way better than their last man standing match. They definitely made up for the disappointment with the last man standing match at WrestleMania. The match was spectacular, and then when we look back at some of the best matches of the year in December, we will definitely think of Edge and Randy Orton being up there. Will it be match of the year? Probably not, but it was still great for what it was, and it delivered. I still don't like how WWE, advertised it as the greatest wrestling match ever, but it delivered. And Edge and Randy Orton should be fucking proud for what they did. It was 30 to 40 minutes of pure awesomeness, and we will talk about it all a little bit later on in the podcast. Like I said, I want to give you guys my initial thoughts on that front, but we're gonna get into the rest of the Backlash card, and we're gonna start with the pre-show really quickly. We had Apollo Crews defending the United States Championship against Andrade. Remember, Andrade gained this opportunity by winning a triple threat match last Monday on Monday Night Raw. And if you look at it, the only reason why I believe we got this match is they were only 1 week away from Backlash, and it would an Apollo Crews versus a Angel Garza feud. That's a feud I believe they can do 2 or 3 matches on if they want to. I love Angel Garza. Apollo Crews is great, and I really hope they use Apollo Crews to build up that United States Championship, because it needs to be built up. You can say the same thing about AJ Styles and the Intercontinental Championship. And it would have made sense to try to build a 1 week feud between Apollo Crews and Angel Garza. All right. Plus Kevin Owens versus Apollo Crews. That could have been a great match. And I hope WWE lets these two actually go out and have a full length match. They were doing pretty well a couple weeks ago before Andrade and Andrade and Garza interfered. So it made the most sense to go with Andrade. Apollo's already beat Andrade. He has the momentum, and it's an easy match you can put on the pre-show. I didn't really mind the match being put on the pre-show, just because we've already seen this match 2 or 3 times in like the last month. If this was Apollo going up against Garza or somebody else, I would have had more of a problem with it, but we've already seen this match, so it didn't really bother me too much that it was on the pre-show. All right, out of the equation. There was also a point where Andrade hit a slingshot DDT, but Owens kept Garza from interfering in that as well. So Crews wins the match with a spinning powerbomb for the win. 1, 2, 3. So this takes Andrade out of the picture. He's already lost now to Apollo 3 straight times. Andrade's out of the picture at this point. Time to move on to something else. No matter if that's us getting a KO and Apollo match finally, a full-length match and not getting a DQ like we did a couple weeks ago, or us moving on to seeing Garza versus Apollo. Like I said, hopefully what I care about is I want them to build up the United States Championship. And, like I said, I didn't mind it being on the pre-show just because we've seen Apollo versus Andrade already. But going forward, we need to have the United States Championship on the main card for pay-per-views. We need to. All right, let's be honest here. That it's time for the mid-card titles to be built up correctly once again. And I want to see Apollo defend that title against Aleister Black, KO, Angel Garza, Austin Theory, Ricochet, Buddy Murphy. There's so many names that you can have Apollo go up against. They'll really make that title feel important. WWE has a solid mid-card on Monday Night Raw. It's just that WWE is so bad, and Paul Heyman got fired, which should have never happened. Paul Heyman never really got a chance to build up Monday Night Raw and these other superstars, because fucking Vince always has to get in the way of everything. Vince should just be focused on WWE's business side and let people like Triple H and Paul Heyman, who know what they're doing, actually run the creative side for it. But when something goes wrong, he blames Paul Heyman, he blames Eric Bischoff, and they end up getting fired for it. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I hate when WWE does that. I really do. Paul Heyman loved names like Cedric Alexander and Humberto Carrillo and Ricochet and Apollo, and the list goes on and on. But yet, Vince would never let them be built up. That's why the mid-card has been suffering for so many months. It has so much talent, but yet Vince McMahon always had to get in the way of everything Paul Heyman wanted to do, because Vince believes that in 2020 he knows how to build talent when he doesn't know jack shit about anything. He's terrible. He doesn't understand he is an old man out of touch. This is not the Attitude Era anymore. And now Paul Heyman, you need for at least another month to build up for his SummerSlam match. And then after that, we won't see him till Survivor Series. And then after that, the Royal Rumble. And after that, WrestleMania. And the cycle goes on year after year after year till Lesnar finally decides to retire. Really? Yeah, WWE put that memo together to make it look like they were doing Paul Heyman a favor. Like they were taking a load off of his back. No, it's Vince firing an employee who was actually doing a good job just to, blame somebody else for his own failures. If he had let Paul Heyman do what he wanted to do, the mid-card would be probably the best part of Monday Night Raw right now. But no, you have fucking Bruce from SmackDown now taking over Monday Night Raw creative as well. How long till Apollo is buried? How long till Apollo loses that United States Championship? I forbid this happens, but I'm willing to bet that, or I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw we see Apollo Crews lose the United States title. Just because. Because Bruce is a yes man, and he's only there to do what Vince wants, not to do what's in the best interest of the superstars or the show or the company itself. And it's an absolute travesty. Vince needs to go. He needs to go. You have everything to have a solid United States Championship scene. Apollo, his rivalry with Andrade, that's in the past. Now focus on building up that United States Championship. Build up that Raw mid-card. So those superstars can actually, be built up. They can get over. And then you can eventually move those superstars to the main event. To challenge Drew McIntyre and be in the WWE Championship picture. That's the way things should be. That's the reason why it's called the mid-card. You use the mid-card to build superstars up so they can eventually be bigger superstars and make the company that much more better. I hope that they continue to build up Apollo Crews because he's really good. So far he's been a good United States champion. But with Paul Heyman no longer there, I feel like it's only a matter of time till Apollo is buried, and I hope I'm wrong on that. I really do. But we'll just have to wait and see how things go in that direction. All right. I was looking at Sasha Banks. Speaking of Sasha Banks, speaking of the best female wrestler in the world, let's get into the main show on WWE Backlash. So I knew this was going to start off the show. I just had a feeling. So the show started off with Bayley and Sasha Banks defending their newly won WWE Women's Tag Team titles against Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, and the Iconics. If you guys watched Raw and SmackDown this week, both teams on Monday, the Iconics, and on Friday, Bliss and Cross both got over on Sasha Banks and Bayley. This told me that Sasha Banks and Bayley would be winning, and luckily they did. It was the best thing for the Sasha Banks and Bayley story and the eventual breakup that will be happening sooner rather than later, and it's the best thing for those tag team titles, because I'm going to say this right now. In the last week of Sasha Banks and Bayley holding the women's tag team titles, in the last 9 days of Sasha and Bayley holding those titles have never looked better. If you guys remember last year when Sasha and Bayley first originally won those titles at the Elimination Chamber, I said Sasha and Bayley should hold those titles for most, if not all, of 2019, building up those tag team titles, making them look important. WWE wanted them to be prestigious, right? No, they clearly didn't, because they looked at the first opportunity to take those titles off of Sasha Banks and Bayley at WrestleMania 35. And I say this all the time. Having the Iconics beat Sasha Banks and Bayley at WrestleMania 35 was a terrible decision. Do you guys remember my epic rant last year when that happened? I was streaming WrestleMania 35 reactions right here on this channel, and I stopped the stream right after that match. And ever since then, the women's tag team titles have been nothing more than props. But ever since you put those titles back on Sasha Banks and Bayley, those titles have never looked better. They've never looked better. Let's be honest here. When have the women's tag team titles? When have those titles looked any better than on Sasha Banks and Bayley? It wasn't when Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss held them. It wasn't when the Iconics held them. I love Asuka and Kairi Sane, but it wasn't when they held those titles either. Sasha Banks and Bayley, in the last 9 days of holding those tag team titles, have never made those titles look any better. The titles have never looked any better. They actually feel like gold because of the superstars holding them and the way they're booked. Look at it. They were in the main event of SmackDown when we had Sasha Banks and Bayley against Bliss and Cross last week. Then on Monday Night Raw, they were in 2 segments. They were in the opening segment of Raw and the closing segment of Raw. Then tonight, championship match at Backlash. Most of the time, most of the pay-per-view, since those titles were introduced, the titles weren't even defended on that show, unless it was like a last-minute write-in, just to fill up time. But look at how Sasha Banks and Bayley have elevated those championships in just 9 days. And now, one thing we've been saying for how long? Use those titles to elevate NXT talent. Have those championships defended in NXT. Make them look prestigious. Make them look better. It's funny. Sasha Banks and Bayley, when they first won those titles last year, they went to NXT like a couple weeks after winning them. WWE never let them defend those titles in NXT because they gave them to the Iconics and the titles became worth nothing. But now look at it. How ironic is it? A year later, here we are. Sasha and Bayley are the tag team titles, and now they're going to be in the main event of NXT this Wednesday. And I cannot wait. Against against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. And it's going to be fucking epic. It's going to be amazing. Sasha and Bayley are going to make Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart look like complete stars. I don't expect Sasha and Bayley to lose. Would it be surprising? Yes. But, I don't expect them to lose those titles. I think it's going to be an epic main event. It's going to make NXT look great. It's going to make the tag team titles look great. It's going to make Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart look great. And it's also going to help further the storyline between Sasha Banks and Bayley towards their eventual breakup. If plans are for Sasha Banks and Bayley still to face off at SummerSlam in Boston, which I hope still happens. I've been saying here on the podcast, if you cannot have SummerSlam in Boston since Mayor Walsh said no big events in Boston until September, just move SummerSlam to September. Honestly, move. It's supposed to be your WrestleMania level event, right? SummerSlam needs a crowd. I don't mind the NXT talent, but SummerSlam needs a crowd. Just move SummerSlam to September and you could still have it in Boston. What, 2-3 more weeks? Gives you a little bit more time to build up the pay-per-view. Look at what AEW, look at what NXT does. They don't have pay-per-views for 2-3 months. And those shows are absolutely epic because the build and the stories are amazing. If you can't have SummerSlam in Boston in August because of COVID-19 and you have to move it to September, that's fine. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. Move it to September if you need to, because you need to have that live crowd. SummerSlam needs to be the WrestleMania event of the year, especially because WrestleMania had no freaking crowd. But back to what I was saying. The women's tag team titles have never looked any better. They actually feel like legit championships with Sasha and Bayley holding them around their waist. Getting into the match themselves, before the match, Iconics come out, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross come out, then we go backstage. This has been a common theme when it comes to these pay-per-views. Before the match, it seems like Kayla Braxton or somebody interviews Sasha Banks and Bayley backstage. And the one common theme that comes up every single time is the interviewer asks, if X happens tonight, will this ruin your friendship? And there was no difference here tonight. Sasha and Bayley are putting on their titles. There was I told you guys to keep watching this. Every time Sasha and Bayley have a match, notice how Sasha is always eyeing the SmackDown Women's Championship. No matter if Bayley lets her hold it for a couple seconds, no matter if she's just looking at it on Bayley's race or looking at it on Bayley's shoulder. If you guys see it, Sasha always has an eye on Bayley's championship. Always has an eye on the title. So, Sasha holds the SmackDown Women's title for a couple seconds and gives it back to Bayley. Kayla asks, if you guys lose the Women's Tag Team titles, will this ruin your friendship? Sasha and Bayley choose not to answer, and at least tonight, it looked like Bayley actually let Sasha get a word in. So, I don't know what's that to mean, but if you guys notice Sasha's body language. That is the key. She's not frustrated right now because, they're Women's Tag Team Champions. But, they also, noted this on the bump. Sasha was on the bump this morning before Backlash. And one of the guys asked Sasha, do you think it's time for Bayley to give you a shot at the SmackDown Women's title? Sasha's the only person on the SmackDown roster that hasn't had a one-on-one shot at the title because Bayley's defeated everybody. I was the one that said that Bayley should not even be defending the SmackDown Women's title at Backlash, which he didn't. But she'll definitely be defending it at Extreme Rules, which we'll talk about in just a sec. But, definitely, Sasha refuses to answer the question. You can tell deep down Sasha wants to be SmackDown Women's Champion, but she doesn't want to sacrifice her friendship with Bayley. That's why when eventually Sasha and Bayley turn on one another, Sasha's going to be the babyface. Because she's the one that's sacrificing everything. She's the one that's letting Bayley run around, be SmackDown Women's Champion, and perform all these antics. So, but then Sasha doesn't answer. She says, we're focused on, defending our tag team titles tonight. Sasha comes out. Love seeing Sasha with a championship around her waist and her entrance. Bayley's like, I know what you're trying to pull, but nothing's going to ruin me and Sasha's friendship. We're best buddies for life. So then Bayley comes out, and, Sasha and Bayley have new ring gear. And Makazi, man, Sasha is one lucky woman that have new ring gear almost every single pay-per-view. Sasha's ring gear tonight was absolutely fantastic. And it makes me sit there and question, every time Sasha comes out with a new ring gear, I'm just like, where am I going to put this on Sasha's best ring gear? Because she has 30 to 40 different ring gears. Because she debuts a new one every single pay-per-view. This one was, the color scheme wasn't anything special, but it was mainly like a black, white, and gray ring gear, which looked incredible. Went really nice with the blue hair and the titles. I absolutely loved it. And Bayley had something on similar as well. So getting to the match was pretty decent. It wasn't anything special about it, but I saw on Twitter some people were like, this is going to be a snooze fest. This is a terrible way to start the pay-per-view. But because Sasha Banks, she's the best female wrestler in the world, the match was pretty good, decent. All right, Billie Kay, Nikki Cross, and Bayley began for their teams. Nikki's doing her unorthodox offense, allowing her to get the better of the other two superstars. But then Banks, Bliss, Peyton Royce each tagged each other to give their partners a chance to rest. There was multiple points in this match where all 6 women were brawling with one another at the same time, and then near the end of the match, we see Bliss. She gets a hot tag from Cross. She comes in and she's, nailing everybody. And this is the thing about Alexa Bliss. Like I said, Bliss, she's decent on the mic, but in the ring, she does nothing impressive. I remember a couple of years ago when I think it was Bliss was going up against Ronda Rousey. Bliss said in an interview that because she's a heel, she doesn't have to do flashy moves, but she can be flashy in the ring. Alexa's been a babyface for how much? Close to a year now since she started teaming with Cross, and she's still the same. She got the hot tag, and all she did was do a couple of punches, a couple of kicks, does that stupid slap in the face. She does the same thing every single time. Bliss does nothing impressive in the ring to me. Nothing impressive. When you do the same boring offense each and every single time, people are going to notice. And the thing is, he did the same moves on all 4 competitors. Billie Kay, Sasha, Bayley, and Roy. She did the same moves. It was ridiculous. it was nonsense. I don't know what I was watching. There was also a point where like all the competitors were at the outside the ring, and I think it was Peyton Royce. She did like a running it wasn't a suicide dive, but it was like a crossbody through the ropes. It looked ugly and sloppy, so I noticed that. But other than that, the match was decent. And I also gotta say, Billie Kay, terrible. Easily the worst competitor in this match. She does nothing impressive in the ring. Nothing. She looks like freaking Molly from ESPN First Take, and you know how Molly's terrible on First Take. That's like Billie Kay in the ring. Terrible. Easily the worst. Alexa Bliss is better than Billie Kay in the ring. Peyton Royce and Nikki Cross, decent. Bayley's great. Sasha, best female wrestler in the world. Billie Kay is terrible. But what happens here? Everyone gets set out of the ring. Alexa Bliss is in the ring with Peyton Royce, hits the Twisted Bliss on her, but Sasha comes in because basically the rules of this match, one member of all three teams could be in, which I like that rule. I hate how, you have like a triple threat or like a fatal four-way like tag team match and only like two people can be in the ring at once. I absolutely hate that. But at the last moment, Sasha comes in out of nowhere since Peyton Royce was taken out with the Twisted Bliss. Sasha scores the quick cover on Bliss, almost kind of similar to how they won the women's tag team titles a couple weeks ago, and they get the win. So Sasha Banks and Bayley retain the women's tag team titles clean, and that made me happy. Even if the rest of the show was garbage, Sasha Banks and Bayley retaining was enough for me to be happy. The right move, the great stuff from Sasha Banks and Bayley as always. And I don't believe I'm saying this, but do you guys realize that Sasha Banks made history tonight? This might shock you, but this was Sasha's first successful title defense on the main roster in 5 years, which is sad. The best female wrestler in the world. She's a 7-time women's champion, but this was her first successful title defense since being on the main roster in 5 years, which is a absolute travesty. I'm happy that she defended successfully, cleanly tonight. Yes, they did have a successful title defense when they were women's tag team champions last year. I think it was against Nia Jax and Tamina at, I think it was Elimination Chamber or Fastlane, something like that. But that match ended in DQ. This was Sasha's first successful title defense. No clean, no disqualification, nothing like that, which is an absolute travesty. But I'm just happy that, finally we can get that out of the way. Hopefully, I'm as much as I'm happy that they retained tonight. When Sasha becomes SmackDown Women's Champion eventually, because we all know it's coming, that's when it's all gonna be important. When Sasha, successfully defends singles titles, that's when we know, things are going right for her. It's one thing to win a title, but we all know the bigger thing is how long you can defend a title. But easily this Wednesday, NXT, Sasha and Bayley going up against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. I will be reviewing that right here on the podcast, so make sure you guys are here for NXT review this Wednesday night. It's probably going to be the main event. It's going to be epic. I cannot wait. I expect Sasha and Bayley to successfully defend on Wednesday, especially, since Nox and Blackheart didn't really do anything to get this title match, but still, it really wouldn't make sense to take the titles off Sasha Banks and Bayley, at least not yet. I would probably wait till after Extreme Rules to take the tag team titles off of Sasha and Bayley, since we're waiting for SummerSlam, hopefully, for that big match between Sasha and Bayley. What I would do, I did say this, what I would do with Bayley going into Extreme Rules, I told you guys she should not be defending those titles at Backlash, which I'm glad WWE actually listened to me on. What I would do with Bayley with Extreme Rules, what I would do is I would have her defend both titles at Extreme Rules. This will help set up the split with Sasha and Bayley. You guys remember when Seth Rollins, when he was the United States champion and he was the WWE World Champion back in 2015, and he had to defend those titles against both John Cena and Sting at Night of Champions? I will do something similar like that with Bayley. I don't know which team it would be. If you want, you can bring up an NXT tag team. Maybe you can do like a rematch between Knox and Blackheart. I wouldn't mind that. Maybe you can have Dakota Kai and Gonzalez come up. Because I can't really think of any other teams on the main roster unless you do Carmella and Dana Brooke, which I'm not interested in. But you can do something like that. Have Sasha and Bayley lose the tag team titles at Extreme Rules, and then have the breakup happen during Bayley's title match at Extreme Rules for the SmackDown Women's title. That's the way I would do it. If the plan is for Sasha and Bayley to go up against SummerSlam. If the match is delayed because we can't have a crowd, keep those titles on Sasha Banks and Bayley. The titles have not looked any better. All right. So definitely, I love the way the show started tonight. So moving on. We went from this match to Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. And this storyline between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus has been very questionable. Very questionable because of the way WWE's booked it. After, rewatching the SmackDown on Friday and rewatching the segment between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus and the whole piss segment, which was legit a copy and paste from a segment Shawn Michaels did with both Shane and Vince McMahon back in 2006. I've come to the conclusion that I think WWE's taking this a little bit too far. And what I mean by that is, here we have a man in Jeff Hardy that is trying to get better, right? He's legit actually trying to get better from his drug and alcohol problems in real life, all right? And you decided to bring him back, do this whole entire redemption storyline, do the car accident storyline, with Elias and Sheamus, and now you did the piss segment. But I feel like WWE's just overdoing it at this point. There's a point where enough is enough. It doesn't really feel like redemption. It feels like you're just trying to put a spotlight on Jeff Hardy. Excuse me. It seems like you're just trying to put a spotlight on Jeff Hardy and his real life issues, which at the end of the day are none of our business. Even if we hear about it in the news, it's not our business. It's Jeff Hardy's business to get better for himself and his family. That's the important thing at the end of the day. But if you look at things, WWE has really pushed this thing to death. They really want Jeff Hardy to get redemption for all this stuff. And the thing is, I'll say this, Sheamus has been doing some of his best work ever since coming back. Getting in shape. He's been a great heel. And in my opinion, Sheamus should have probably won the IC Championship tournament, even though I had no problem. And Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles are fantastic. And AJ was on Backlash tonight. He did announce that Friday on SmackDown he'll be doing an IC title championship presentation. So I don't know if they're setting that up for another match with Bryan, or if they're setting up the return of Sami Zayn. We'll just have to wait and see for SmackDown on Friday to see what happens with that. But if you look at it, Sheamus should have won that championship tournament. All right? He should have won that championship tournament, especially with the level of character work he's been doing on WWE TV as of late. And going to this match, this was supposed to be the big burn-off match. With everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, in my opinion, the story should have probably ended around 2 weeks ago. With Sheamus probably getting handcuffed and, arrested for what happened with Elias Jeff Hardy, setting Jeff Hardy up, and then Elias getting hurt and injured per storyline, even though it's been reported that Elias has a legit injury and will be gone for most likely the rest of the year. The story should have ended there. You guys are really pushing this whole Jeff Hardy thing down our throats, in my opinion. And I don't like it. I really don't. And the match tonight with Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, it wasn't a bad match. It was pretty good, if you ask me. But as the match dragged on, it just looked like Jeff just didn't have the energy or the stamina. He looked legitimately out of it. I don't know if he was overselling or, he just couldn't keep up with Sheamus. But it really did look like Jeff was having just some legit trouble keeping up with Sheamus, especially near the end of the match. But basically near the end of the match, we see Jeff Hardy. He began the rally, but he went for the Swanton bomb, but Sheamus prevented that from happening. And there was a really scary moment, near the end of the match where there was a botched move and Hardy almost went right into the mat. I don't know if it was a botch on Sheamus or on Jeff's part, but that's when I was really thinking like, oh, I don't know about, if Jeff's really up to this. But we saw Sheamus hit white noise. Jeff kicks out for a very close kick out at 2.5. Then we see Jeff counter into the twist of fate. Then he hit a swanton bomb, but Sheamus was able to save himself by putting his foot on the rope. Then we see on the outside of the ring, Sheamus hit Jeff. Jeff, went onto the barricade, running around the barricade with the plexiglass, and then he tried to jump off the barricade. Sheamus hit him with a devastating bro kick. Then back into the ring, Sheamus hits another bro kick for the win. 1, 2, 3. Sheamus gets the victory. I'm happy, because honestly, Sheamus needed this victory, especially after not winning the IC tournament and getting kicked. He got beat by Jeff in the first round. And honestly, I think that was a mistake. Sheamus should have won that entire tournament, especially with the level of character work and in-ring work he's been putting as of late. The match was good, but just Jeff's outlook and the way he just looked out of it. I don't know if it was just, a stamina thing or, something. But still, I don't know. Is this over? We'll have to wait and see. I did read a report that WWE wants to continue with this Hardy and Sheamus storyline. I think you should just drop it tonight. Move Sheamus on to something else. I feel like there's, like I've been saying for weeks now, I feel like they're doing something bigger here with Jeff Hardy. And I think they were building him up for the Universal title. Potentially going up against Bray Wyatt maybe at SummerSlam or sometime this fall. I don't know if WWE's still going to do that, but honestly, I think it's time to move on from this whole angle with Sheamus and Hardy. You did what it did, and I feel like they've kind of put way too much pressure on Jeff. Definitely with everything they did with the piss segment and the arrest, and they just keep hammering home about Jeff's issue. Honestly, man, Jeff shouldn't really be having to think about this that much. Even though it's a storyline on WWE TV, I think WWE should stop it right here. You got Sheamus his win. If you want to have another match between the two, that's fine. But I wouldn't do any more segments talking about the whole drug problem and things of that nature. Sheamus got to win here. Happy for that. We'll see where they go. But no, I'm WWE. I would stop it here. I heard rumors saying that they wanted to bring Sami Zayn into the storyline, which I don't think are a good idea, and they don't make any sense at all. Stop the storyline. Move both men on to other things. All right. Moving on. We had Asuka versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. I was not looking forward to this match. If you guys remember, before Becky Lynch became pregnant and had to vacate the Raw Women's title to Asuka, this match was supposed to take place at Money in the Bank. It was originally supposed to be Becky versus Nia. But because Asuka, I have no problem with Asuka being the champ. You guys know how much I love Asuka, and Asuka now be the babyface. I had no problem. It's just that Nia Jax sucks. She sucks. Like, I'm trying my best not to be all mean and be all rude, but I gotta be honest. You guys know I'm brutally honest. Nia Jax is terrible. Get it through your thick skulls, people. She sucks. People out here on Twitter talking about how Nia has mental issues, done of this, done of that. I can understand that, but I'm talking about Nia from an in-ring perspective. I was scared that Asuka was going to get injured in this match the same way Kairi Sane has gotten injured in the last 3 matches she's had with Nia. There was a point in this match where Nia went for a clothesline on Asuka, And instead of hitting the clothesline with her arm, she hit her with the shoulder. And I was like, what the hell are we watching here? Nia Jax should not be on WWE TV. She's not meant to be a professional wrestler. She's not good at all. And there was actually a point where I was scared that WWE was going to give Nia Jax the title, because Tom Phillips was like, oh, it's been 2 years since Nia Jax was last Raw Women's Champion. Nia Jax should have never been Raw Women's Champion. That match with Alexa Bliss at WrestleMania 34, one of the worst WrestleMania matches I've ever seen. Her title reign was awful. There's only 2 highlights I've ever, 3. The only 3 highlights of Nia Jax's entire career was her match with Sasha Banks, because Sasha Banks is that damn good. Her match with Ronda Rousey, because everyone was so impressed with how great Ronda Rousey was in that match, and Nia was actually decent. And Nia Jax getting freaking RKO'd and 619 out of the Men's Royal Rumble last year. That was it. Those are the only highlights she's ever had. The way Tom Phillips was talking about Nia Jax, I was really scared that they were going to give Nia Jax the title tonight. I'm glad they didn't. But the match wasn't that fast paced. Asuka tried to pick up the pace, but Nia would swat her down every single time. Nia would taunt Asuka with Kairi Sane's name, saying, "Where's Kairi? Where's Kairi?" Then Asuka hit her with a spinning back fist. Then Asuka takes her down with a missile dropkick and hip attack for a 2 count. Then she also slammed or sent Nia flying into the ring post to soften up her shoulder. Asuka performed many different submission moves, and I love Samoa Joe on commentary, especially when it comes to submission moves. The guy is great at what he does. And the match and the fight broke out to the outside of the ring with the 2 going at each other, but the referee counted out both. If you guys remember, Vince McMahon has been saying that he wants WWE officials to count other superstars out if they surpass the 10 count, but the match ends in a double DQ, but since Asuka is the champion, she retains the belt. This is something you usually see. Sorry about that. I thought I had something in my nose, but this is something you usually see with heels. You see this all the time with heels in this situation, but they decided to do this with Asuka, and I'm terrified because I can already see in the chat right now people are already saying what's in my head. This feud is going to continue. That is one, but it's going to get absolutely worse. It was reported, I believe, by Dave Meltzer or Wrestling Inc., one of the two. It was reported that the main reason why Charlotte wasn't pinned at NXT TakeOver in Your House by Io Shirai is because they wanted Charlotte to maintain a strong focus. Because the plans right now is WWE plans to have Charlotte Flair fill in the void left by Becky Lynch on Monday Night Raw, and she will be feuding with Asuka going forward. The article also stated this is why they didn't have Asuka beat Charlotte in their last 2 matches the last couple weeks on Raw, because they want to continue pushing the story that Asuka's never defeated Charlotte. And I'm already terrified because I can already see it happening at Extreme Rules. It's going to be a triple threat between Nia Jax, Charlotte, and Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. And I've been ranting, bitching, and moaning for weeks now. Charlotte Flair should be nowhere near any Women's Championship. I don't care what anybody says. Enough is enough. The Charlotte Flair agenda has to be terminated. She is the most selfish, egotistical bitch in WWE history. I don't care what anybody says. She goes on her social media and she's always like, oh, I'm elevating the women's division. When she was NXT Women's Champion, who did she elevate? Someone tell me. She didn't elevate Shotzi Blackheart. She didn't elevate Chelsea Green. She didn't elevate Dakota Kai or Tegan Knox or Gonzalez. She didn't elevate Mia Yim or Candice LeRae. She didn't elevate Io Shirai or Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley still hasn't recovered from that WrestleMania match. Rhea Ripley should still be NXT Women's Champion right now. Charlotte should have never won that title. Did she elevate the NXT ratings? Did she elevate the NXT Women's division? Did she elevate the NXT Women's title? No. Hell, I ranted a couple weeks ago when Charlotte Flair was in a number one contenders triple threat match on Monday Night Raw. Remember that garbage between her, Natalya, and Nia Jax? Which is how Nia Jax gained that opportunity for this Raw Women's title match that we saw at Backlash tonight. She was the NXT Women's Champion going after another title. Wow. But yes, she's elevating the women's division. So, you didn't have Charlotte lose, right? You didn't have Charlotte lose the NXT Women's title. Because why? Because you want her to look strong. Even though Charlotte has been booked to look strong throughout her entire career on WWE TV. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a guy who rants on wrestling for fun. No one's going to complain about this though, right? Nobody's going to complain about this. There's no problems with it because Charlotte Flair is that great. She's a superstar. Yet you have superstars like Shayna Baszler, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, who we have not seen since WrestleMania. Superstars who deserve an opportunity and who deserve a chance to shine. They're forced to sit at home or sit in catering while Charlotte Flair takes all the opportunities. Instead of using Charlotte Flair to build up other women to create more stars, so when Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey eventually come back, they'll actually have talent and matches and superstars we want to see them go up against. And it will make the championship picture on Raw that much better. But instead, no. Instead of using Becky Lynch's absence, instead of using Becky Lynch's time that she's going to be gone, we don't know how long Becky's going to be gone. We don't know. She may not come back for all we know. We don't know. But instead of using this time to build up the next Becky Lynch, to make your women's division that much better, you go back to the flavor of the month, Charlotte Flair. Yeah, nice job. Well, wow, because it's easy. Wow, we're just going to have Charlotte take Becky's spot. Even though Charlotte has never elevated anybody in the women's division. Great. So what? Extreme Rules. We're going to get Charlotte, Nia Jax, and Asuka in a triple threat. What's going to happen in that match? You're going to have Charlotte Flair pin Nia Jax, right? Since Asuka's the babyface, you're going to have Charlotte pin Nia Jax, have Charlotte become a 13-time women's champion in 5 years. And then you're going to give us Charlotte versus Asuka at SummerSlam. Because you're going to have the whole thing since Asuka wasn't pinned, right? Since Asuka wasn't pinned, Asuka still looks strong, and then you got Asuka chase after Charlotte. When I've been the one that's saying you should be doing Asuka versus Shayna Baszler at Extreme Rules, and then eventually build up Bianca Belair as the next big star of the Raw Women's division, and eventually be the one to take the title off of Asuka. But no, we're going to go back to Charlotte Flair. We're going to go back to the robotic champion. Great fucking job, WWE. Great fucking job. It's absolutely atrocious. Who does Charlotte make better? Someone answer me that question. Who does Charlotte make better? Absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody. I'm happy that Asuka is still champion. But man, oh man. WWE has enough women to make the Raw Women's division pretty damn good. Outside of Charlotte, no one said that Charlotte isn't a superstar. We all know she's a superstar. She's pretty good in the ring. All right? And she elevates only herself. But think about this, enough is enough. Charlotte Flair being pushed constantly in championship pictures is enough. Come on. Build somebody back up. Why does it always have to be Charlotte getting all the opportunities? And then people are going to go like, the 4 horsewomen are stealing everything. They're always on top of the mountain. Don't put Sasha in that conversation. If you want, you can put Bayley, but Bayley's actually done a really good job with the opportunities she's been given. And Becky had her time. She's gone now. It's Charlotte. Charlotte has always been the most pushed out of the 4 horsewomen. And that's the reason why you have idiots like Paige of all people, going on WWE Backstage saying the 4 horsewomen are stealing opportunities. No, it's freaking Charlotte Flair stealing opportunities. Use your eyes, Paige. You're supposed to be smarter than that. Absolutely garbage. Asuka versus Nia Jax was garbage because Nia Jax sucks in the ring and she can't wrestle. Now you're going to make me have to go through an Asuka, Nia Jax, and Charlotte program. I'm so excited. You can have a really good Raw Women's division with Charlotte, Nia Jax, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, Natalya, Bianca Belair. I gave you 9 or 10 names right there. You could have a competitive Raw Women's division with all those names right there. And then Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey when they come back. But instead, you rather push the same superstars over and over and over. It's an atrocious. I didn't even mention Ruby Riott. It's an atrocious. It really is an atrocious. All I can do is pray that Asuka stays champion. Oh, because I can't sit through Charlotte Flair again. I really can't. All we can do is sit and pray that Asuka remains champion. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. We'll see what happens tomorrow night on Raw. But it seems pretty clear that we're getting Asuka, Nia Jax, and Charlotte at Extreme Rules. Now I know where my piss break is next month. Moving on. We had Braun Strowman versus The Miz versus John Morrison for the Universal Championship in a 2-on-1 handicap match. It was noted before the match that last time Braun Strowman was in a handicap match for a title, he lost his IC title to Sami Zayn. Because remember, at Elimination Chamber, we had a 3-on-1 handicap match. Strowman going up against Nakamura, Zayn, and Cesaro. Before the match, basically Caleb Baxton informed Miz and Morrison that they will not be co-champions if they won. Whoever pins Strowman will be the sole Universal Champion. And you can already tell how that was going to end this match. You can already tell. It was pretty obvious how this was going to go. So basically, I did like the interaction between Strowman and Morrison. I really do like Morrison. That guy, first of all, he has abs of steel, and he's actually really good in the ring. I like John Morrison. I like his heel character. He has charisma. He has that it factor. You know, I wouldn't mind John Morrison being built up as a single star if they ever break up Miz and Morrison. I swear I just saw an ant run across my desk. Maybe I'm seeing things. Anyway. Basically, Morrison, did the junk of the work. Miz came in and really didn't do much. He did his normal stupid stick. Miz is so generic with his offense, man. Same as Strowman. It's why I just couldn't stand watching this garbage. But near the end, Strowman tried making a comeback, but ran into the ring post. The Miz ended up pulling Morrison off of Strowman when he went for a pin, which you can tell, at that moment, Miz didn't want John Morrison to become Universal Champion. He wanted the victory for himself. Then, when realizing he made a mistake, he put Morrison back on Strowman, but then Strowman kicked out at 2.5. Then Miz came in, but he ran right into a running power slam, and he pins Morrison for the win. 1, 2, 3. This was absolute garbage. You know, Miz and Morrison, they're actually pretty funny together, but they tried to make this first of all, this is a Universal Championship match. This is supposed to be on the level of the WWE Championship. This is supposed to be the most important title in all of WWE, alongside the WWE Championship. But instead, you want to have Miz and Morrison, who, like I said, they're funny, but you want to build a rivalry for the World Championship on WWE, on a pay-per-view, around Miz and Morrison pranking Strowman. This is what it was all about, you know? Having Strowman's protein shake explode in his face. Sliming Cleo Braxton backstage when they were trying to slime Strowman instead. Destroying his car with golf clubs and baseball bats. All this was a bunch of pranksters. Alright? Pranksters. This is how we're building world title matches. And I'm supposed to be confident that Bruce is going to make Monday Night Raw look good after seeing what he's doing on SmackDown. Other than Sasha Banks and Bayley in the IC title tournament, SmackDown is a dismal mess. It's a mess. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. What happened to the hacker, by the way? What happened to the hacker? I haven't seen him in 2 or 3 weeks now. Did Bruce forget about him? I believe Mustafa Ali was the hacker all along. But did WWE forget about him? Is he gone? This was garbage. This is absolute garbage. You built a world title program behind pranks. Pranks. Yeah, pranks. Great fucking job, WWE. Great job. Even though we knew the only reason why we got this match was because Bray Wyatt, you know, he had his baby with JoJo, and we know most likely I better see the feed on Friday. It's time to get that title off of Strowman. Strowman is garbage as champion. Strowman should have never won that title to begin with, you know. But what should happen, Extreme Rules, the feed becomes Universal Champion once again. It's that simple. Let's get back to business here. This is the Universal Championship, not the 24/7 title. Moving on. This was actually really good. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship. I've been 50-50 since this match was announced. I didn't know what to think going in, because I said the match could be really good, but it was hard for me to get into this feud. But Drew McIntyre and, surprisingly, Bobby Lashley, even though MVP does all the talking for Bobby Lashley, they've both done a good job of building this up as a spectacle. Two big men, two heavyweights fighting over the WWE title. I actually enjoyed this. I did. So, Drew McIntyre, you guys know I've become a huge fan of him, especially since he won the Royal Rumble. And I felt like he's been booked very well as WWE Champion. Bobby Lashley, there was some reports going on that Lashley was going to win this match, since WWE wants to do 2 more matches between the two. They're hoping to make this into a 3-match series, and the only way that can happen is, you know, having Drew win tonight. I'm glad that Drew won, because I've been saying Drew should be holding on to that title. Drew should hold on to that championship all year. You have plenty of people you can go have Drew go up against. After tonight with Randy Orton, I want to see Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, to be honest. You know, if you're not going to give me McIntyre and Lesnar in the 15-20 minute match we should have got at WrestleMania, I would not mind McIntyre versus Randy Orton. I would not mind. There's so many, you know, feuds that you could do with McIntyre. And the guy has been booked actually really well. And if they continue to book McIntyre in this way, he could have one of the best WWE Championship reigns of all time. I'm talking like a John Cena 2006 Championship reign. McIntyre has been booked very well as champion, which is surprising because WWE is terrible when it comes to booking babyface champions. But MVP accompanied Lashley to the ring, and before the match could even begin, Lashley took advantage of a distraction that MVP made, and he put McIntyre into the full Nelson, which I like the intensity and the aggression. You know, Lashley not waiting for the bell. It's telling me, like, okay, you haven't had a WWE Championship match in 13 years, and you're coming out, and you're just bringing it to the champion. Okay, I can get with that. I can get with this program. Give it to me a little bit more. I love it. Took several officials to force him to break the hold, but at that point, they asked Drew if he wanted the match to continue. Drew was like, ring the damn bell. And you could see that Lashley really dominated the first half of this match. He was hitting him with elbows, hitting him in the corner with hard punches, leg drops, hit him with a vertical suplex for a near fall. They showed Lana watching backstage, and Lana was the key factor in all of this. It took like 5 or 6 minutes just for McIntyre to get his jacket off, as Lashley was just pounding away, not giving McIntyre any space to breathe. But finally, McIntyre was able to build some momentum after sending Lashley out of the ring. There was also a point where it looked like McIntyre hit his head, and it looked like he may have suffered a concussion, but he was all right and was able to continue the match. There was a point where McIntyre went for a Claymore, but Lashley hit him with a spear. It was a really good-looking spear. You said Lashley really got up for that one. And it was a close 2 count. But then, like I said, Lana the X Factor came out. Lana comes out to the ring for no reason. Lashley and the MVP are looking like, what the hell are you doing here? She got onto the apron and starts accusing the referee of cheating. I don't know, like, what? It makes me think, you fired superstars like Zack Ryder and the OC, right? You fired some talented superstars, but you decide to keep somebody as bad as Lana. Someone you re-sign to a 5-year deal. You release her husband, Rusev, who is 10 times better than Lana will ever be. You decide to re-sign Lana to a 5-year deal for shit like this? Lana comes out during a damn good WWE Championship match and decides to accuse the ref of cheating. I already knew what this was going to happen. This is classic WWE. You have the female, on the ring apron, trying to, cause a distraction. I don't know what the hell Lana was thinking, but basically, McIntyre ends up knocking Lashley into Lana with I think it was a headbutt, and Lana falls off the apron right into MVP. Both fall. Lashley, checking on his wife, gets distracted and runs into a devastating Claymore kick by McIntyre. 1, 2, 3. McIntyre successfully retains the WWE Championship. I like this ending. I like the match. And I won't mind us getting another match between Lashley and McIntyre. I really don't. I don't want to see them have 3 matches. But if this continues into Extreme Rules, I wouldn't mind it. Even though I want to see, McIntyre versus Edge, McIntyre versus Kevin Owens, McIntyre versus Randy Orton, McIntyre versus Lesnar rematch. McIntyre versus Black. There's still so many feuds, so many matches I want to see McIntyre in. But I won't mind us getting another match between McIntyre and Lashley at Extreme Rules. And then maybe at the way I would do it, I would have Lashley versus McIntyre and at Extreme Rules. McIntyre still as WWE Champion. Going into SummerSlam, if you're not going to give us McIntyre versus Lesnar, give us the dream match. Give us the dream match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. Or if you want, I won't get too mad at this, you can have a triple threat between McIntyre, Lashley, and Lesnar for the WWE Championship. That would be great as well. Remember how good the triple threat was between Cena, Rollins, and Lesnar back in Royal Rumble 2015? I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. I wouldn't mind a triple threat. But the way I would do it, I would do Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Randy Orton has been fucking phenomenal as a heel. So I would do Randy Orton versus McIntyre at SummerSlam, and then have Bobby Lashley versus Lesnar in the dream match we've all been waiting for. But clearly, this is not over between Lashley and McIntyre, and I think it's clear now that Bobby Lashley and Lana are done. I think it's time to do the divorce, get Lana off the TV. You know, honestly, she shouldn't be signed anyway. She's awful. But yeah, get Lana out of here. It's over. It's over. You know, tonight was the writing on the wall. Lastly, you know, if he goes back to Lana after this, he's just retarded, because Lana legit cost him the WWE Championship. All right. They really wrote Lana to come out and accuse the referee of cheating. This company, man. Oh my gosh. Next up. We had what was supposed to be a tag team title match. We got a cinematic match between the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. So this match was supposed to lead us into the main event between Randy Orton and Edge, but it turned into a cinematic match. So it goes out of nowhere, and we find out in the parking lot that the Street Profits and Viking Raiders are just randomly brawling. I don't know why. There was no explanation for it, but they just started, you know, brawling. We see Eric get slammed by Montez Ford on top of Strowman's car, breaking the windshield, almost the same way that Miz and Morrison broke Strowman's windshield last week on SmackDown. So Strowman's gonna have to get that fixed again. Then all four men took out of fear of what Strowman would do to them if he was to find out what happened to his car. Then they start fighting backstage, and, you know, they used props from their previous competitions. You know, then they started the cinematic music. They used bowling balls, they used shields, they used golf clubs. Then they agreed to put their weapons down and fight like men. Basically, then the fight went right back outside to the other side of the Performance Center. Angel Dawkins tackled Ivar through a glass pane near the Performance Center entrance. As they fought in the parking lot, we saw several people pull up in motorcycles, and I could tell right away it was Akira Tozawa. You know, he just has this look on his face. You guys know I do enjoy Akira Tozawa. The guy's actually pretty funny. I just wish he would be booked a little bit better on Monday Night Raw and not as a jobber. I feel like he could be a very valuable asset in the mid-card division, especially that United States Championship. I would love to see Apollo Crews versus Akira Tozawa for the United States title. I feel like that would be a really good match. If you guys watch 205 Live, Akira Tozawa is freaking awesome. But we see, like, and this looked like something straight out of a freaking movie. These bikers roll up. Akira Tozawa looks to be the leader. And then he gave a quick promo with Japanese, basically saying, anything you can do, we can do better. All right. Then all of a sudden, the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders perform some Dragon Ball Z fusion, and all of a sudden, it says on the screen, now they're being called the Viking Profits. So I guess they just formed their own faction out of nowhere. Then they had this sequence where they're fucking fighting the ninjas. And then it turned into like a comedic brawl between the ninjas and the Viking Profits, using turkey legs and all this other stuff. Then eventually, out of nowhere, Tozawa eventually brought out a huge masked man. At first, I thought it was freaking Shaq. You know, the guy was like 7 feet tall, you know, standing up there. And then the look on Ford's face was freaking, it explained the whole thing. This guy was huge. Looked like the Empire State Building. But all of a sudden, Ivar summons a turkey leg like he's freaking Thor from the Avengers series, calling for his hammer. He got turkey legs showing up out of nowhere. But then all of a sudden, you know, the Street Profits tell them, no, live the fight another day. They escaped onto, you know, on top of like the production trucks, like in 2K19, if you have a backstage brawl, one of those production trucks. Then they started brawling again. Then all four men ended into a dumpster. And then all of a sudden, it's revealed that the match isn't going to be taking place. But then you had this like female referee calling Ivar cute, like which has been a common theme between these competitions between the Profits and the Raiders. And then all of a sudden you hear sounds like there's some kind of monster in the dumpster, you know, and you see like a prop, like tail, like some kind of monsters in front of them, and then they escaped the dumpster like it was a scene right out of freaking Mystery Science Teacher 3000 or something out of freaking Magic School Bus. Them was escaping a monster. It was ridiculous. It really was. But my thoughts on it. Look. It's not that I don't find these, segments entertaining. They're kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. They're kind of funny. But at the end of the day, I gotta be honest. You don't have a Raw Tag Team division. The OC gone. AOP injured. Ricochet and Cedric Alexander in catering. You have no division. These are your only two teams on Raw and SmackDown. Or not SmackDown, on Raw. Like, SmackDown's tag team division ain't any better. I don't believe I'm saying this. But the women's tag team championships, the women's tag titles, are probably the best division in all of WWE right now. Even NXT's tag team division hasn't been good of late. Tag team wrestling in WWE has never looked this bad. AEW's tag team division absolutely slaughters WWE's tag team division. It is crazy. If I'm saying that the women's tag team division, which has been meaningless ever since you took those titles off of Sasha Banks and Bayley at WrestleMania 35, if I'm saying that the women's tag team title scene is booked better than the Raw and SmackDown tag team divisions combined, you know there's a problem. These are your only two teams in the tag team division. And it's not like I don't mind the competitions. I find them kind of funny. Both two teams are entertaining. But they're the only teams in the division. Instead of fighting over the Raw tag team titles, they're fighting over freaking turkey legs. Like, what? This was disgusting. If you had a division, if you actually had 6, 7, 8, 9 teams actually fighting for those Raw tag team titles, I wouldn't mind this at all. But these are your only two tag teams. It made no sense that the freaking Revival, who are no longer signed with WWE, who are killing it in AEW right now, it's so bad that they went on their Twitter to say, yes, we know what's going on, and yes, we are happy. They weren't going to call WWE directly, but yes, they knew how bad it was. This is exactly why the Revival left. Remember, before the Revival left, before the Revival disappeared from WWE TV, how WWE planned for them, the freaking, mock tag teams of the past and be buried each and every single week? Yeah. That's the reason why they left. This is not tag team wrestling. WWE has no care for tag team wrestling. It's disgraceful. It really is. Two talented teams like the Raiders and the Street Profits, who in NXT had classic after classic after classic. This is what you have for them. On a pay-per-view nonetheless. It's one thing to do this on Monday Night Raw, but you did this on a pay-per-view. And it's not even that I mind the whole cinematic aspect. It's the fact that this is your Raw tag team division. At this point, JD said it on Twitter. It might be better off that you get rid of the titles altogether for this kind of nonsense. I don't get it at all. I really don't. This was, honestly, man, WWE needs to actually build up the tag team division. It really does. Will they ever? I don't know. But the thing about it is, man, the fact that you did this on a pay-per-view, it's sad. It really is sad. That's what I gotta say on that. I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I don't know if we're gonna have a match between the Street Profits or Viking Raiders. I really don't. But we'll just have to wait till tomorrow, to be honest. All right. Anyway, let's get into the main event. The whole point what you guys have been waiting for. Let's talk about the main event. The greatest wrestling match ever, as it was advertised and marketed. I talked about this at the beginning of the show. Now let's actually talk about the match itself. Edge versus Randy Orton. It was reported by Dave Meltzer that this match was filmed about a week ago. I think at the Raw tapings, so WWE could have time to edit it, take out any cuts. And it was also said by Byron Saxton before the match that he would be putting, or WWE would be putting on, special or different little aspects. They would be putting, what's it called? They would have like different camera angles. They would give you enhanced audio, things of that nature. And we still didn't know what the hell that was going to look like. But we get to the match. Orton comes out. Edge comes out. And right away, you could hear, I kid you not, if you guys watch the show today, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It sounded like WWE 2K19 audio. It legit sounded like WWE 2K19 audio, crowd audio. That's the way it felt as this was edited in. That's the way it felt. And I was like, oh my gosh. Right away, it was horrendous. Like, legit. Did Vince McMahon just see this and be like, oh, this is awesome, man. Put it on. I can't wait for the world to see this. Honestly, this was the worst part of the match. This ridiculous crowd intro. The audio was horrendous. You had the NXT crowd. Clearly, it's about 30 or 40, superstars in there. Right? Maybe even less. I don't know. Clearly, 30 or 40 superstars cannot be that loud. If I was to take my PS4 controller, right? Go on WWE 2K19 on my PS4 right now, on the stream, and you go back and compare the crowd audio from a 2K19 match to what we saw with Randy Orton and Edge tonight, it would sound the exact same. The crowd noise came legit out of 2K19. And the thing is, I've been saying the last couple weeks, it feels like somebody is scripting the NXT talent, telling them when to cheer, when to boo, when to chant, when to do all these other things. And that never felt more apparent than tonight. At points they're chanting, this is awesome, fight forever, cheering, booing. If you put it alongside the edited crowd audio, it really felt like somebody was out there telling them when to cheer or boo. It never felt more apparent than tonight. Getting into the match itself, like I said, the crowd audio was the worst part. Because it was so forced. So forced. It was the worst part. What happens? Edge and Orton come out, and they decide to try to make this into like some kind of UFC style fight night. Bruce Buffer style. We have Howard Finkel, rest in peace, rest in power, Howard Finkel, greatest ring announcer of all time. They have the Performance Center lights dawn, and then there's like a microphone, and you have Howard Finkel introducing both competitors. Because he actually called a lot of Randy Orton and Edge's matches from back in the day. So he introduces both competitors. I actually liked that. I liked it a lot. You also had the referee bring Orton and Edge to the middle of the ring. Like it was a UFC fight and tell them the rules. Like, if you want to touch gloves, touch. Of course they didn't touch each other, but still. And getting to the match itself, this was great. This was fantastic. It's not the greatest wrestling match ever, but it was great. Edge, I gotta give credit to Edge. Randy Orton, the guy's been wrestling for 10 years, since Edge left. But for Edge, he had the match at the Royal Rumble. He had the last man standing match at WrestleMania. Those are two completely different types of matches. Royal Rumble, that's a battle royale. You're just supposed to throw superstars outside the ring. WrestleMania, the last man standing match, that's just beat your opponent up until he can't, till he can't respond to a 10 count. That's more like a fight. This is a one-on-one pure wrestling match. And for a guy who has not been in the ring for 10 years, Edge was amazing. All right? All the doubts That was the big thing about this. First of all, that's been called the greatest wrestling match ever, which, as great as the match was, still, it should have never been called that. I feel like this match would have way more of a legacy and way more of a better reception, even though people responded ridiculously positive to the match on social media. I feel like if you didn't have that greatest wrestling match ever tag behind it, if you didn't have freaking Tom Phillips beating it to death, if you didn't have Byron Saxton, by the way, Byron Saxton needs to burn his shoots. I feel like I have to say this every single week. Byron Saxton does not know how to dress. That suit he was wearing tonight, that, maroon suit, that needs to be burned. All right, burned. That shit was horrendous. But you have freaking Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton beating it to death. That this is supposed to be the greatest wrestling match ever. Like, someone shut them up. Why do you always have to have this dude Tom Phillips beating stuff into our minds? You're not good at your job. We get it. This was not the greatest wrestling match ever, as good as it was. I feel like if they didn't have that ridiculous tagline behind it, we would be saying so much more about this match. But when you put something behind it like greatest wrestling match ever, the pressure and the expectations and everything, people are expecting from these two, it's just whatever. Now we have to compare it to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels and Sasha Banks and Bayley and Gargano versus Cole. And the list goes on and on and on. But still, the two locked up, struggling for control. Orton slammed Edge's face into the mat. Edge hit like 3 or 4 arm drags in a row. Orton countered with an arm drag of his own. Then Randy Orton hits or puts Edge into a head scissor hold, but Edge escapes. Every time it looked like one would have the upper hand, the other would counter. There was a really cool move where on the outside of the ring, Edge baited Orton into the ring, then back outside the ring. Then he hit Orton with a nasty drop kick. Then Edge takes Orton down into a hammerlock. All right, and so the first part of this match was mainly technical, mainly just doing different wrestling moves to feel each other out. Then we see Edge hit Orton with a headbutt. Orton starts bleeding from his forehead. Then we see the old Edge begin to emerge as he's smiling, seeing the damage he had caused. This was reminding me a little bit of heel Edge. I really loved the character work from both superstars in this match. Then we see Orton hit his backbreaker to turn the tables. Then he focused on, doing offense on Edge's neck by sending him into the barricade and to the steel steps. And then, one thing I liked, every time the ref would get close to the 10 count, Orton would get back into the ring and roll right out to restart the 10 count. Then we see Orton go for the 3 amigos, but he hit the first 2, but Edge countered and hit 3 of his own. Then the two start trading chest chops as they got back to their feet. Orton hit a huge superplex to put himself back into the driver's seat. Then this is when the match got really good. So the first part of the match was technical. The second part of the match, they're wearing each other down, trying to, hit each other with different submission moves, trying to, set up for their finishers. Then Edge dropped Orton with an execution for a near fall. And then I will say the match did start to drag up a little bit. We're about, close to 30 minutes in. The match went close to 40 minutes. It was basically almost the exact same time as their last man standing match, but this was way better. It dragged a little bit, but how good the ending was, I'm not going to get on it too much. The last man standing match of WrestleMania dragged on and on. But even though this match did drag, I didn't mind it. I really didn't. Orton went for an RKO. Then Edge countered and hit an Edge-O-Matic for a 2 count. Then he even used Christian's kill switch. All right, they called it the unprettier, but I call it the kill switch. But that could not keep Orton down. Then we see Orton use Triple H's pedigree. Then this was crazy. Edge hit Orton with the rock bottom. So you're calling this the greatest wrestling match ever, and here you have Edge pulling out something from the great one himself, a picture perfect rock bottom. So they couldn't, hit each other's finishing moves on each other. So they decided, all right, let's use other people's finishing moves, what I don't mind. It was a really good. I loved how Edge used the kill switch. Then Orton uses the pedigree. Edge counters with the RKO. Then Orton finally was able to hit a RKO out of nowhere. Then we see Edge kicked out. I'm just getting a little confused by my notes. Yes. So Orton hit Edge with the first RKO. Edge kicked out. Then Edge went for a move off the top, or off the second rope, not the top rope, the second rope. Then Orton hits him with a second RKO, which I thought would get him the win. 1, 2, no. Edge kicked out. And I legit tweeted at the beginning of this match that I think Orton's going to have to win with the punt kick, especially being the heel. It's not going to matter what Orton throws at Edge. Edge is just going to keep kicking out, digging down deep. Then we see Edge hit 2 spears in a row. All right. Orton still kicks out. Out of nowhere, I forgot what Orton did. Orton hit Edge with a low blow and then hit him with the punt kick. It's rare to see Orton use the punt kick. The punt kick was legit what made Orton famous, made him the legend killer. The first part of his career, Orton used the punt kick all the time. Now it is very rare for Orton to use the punt kick. But I legit predicted on Twitter that Orton would have to use the punt kick to get the victory, and indeed he used it. This was great. This was spectacular. Orton uses the punt kick, kicks Edge square in the temple, knocks him out. 1, 2, 3. Orton gets his revenge, gets the victory over Edge in the greatest wrestling match ever. Then after the match, we saw Orton go over to Edge. I couldn't really tell what they were saying. I think he was saying something like, tell your 3 daughters that Uncle Orton says hi. All right. And then he slapped Edge on the chest, saying like, good match. It was really good. This is spectacular. Like I said, this will go down as one of the best matches of Edge and Randy Orton's career. Even though they both are legends, they're not known for having, greatest matches of all time. But this is something they will remember. The crowd noise was terrible. I don't know whose decision it was to put the crowd noise. I don't think it was Paul Heyman. All right? He was probably fired before this match was even freaking taped. If anything, this was fucking Bruce who wanted that freaking crowd noise. Outside of the crowd noise, and outside of, the match just dragging a little bit, this was great. This was fantastic. Way better than the last man standing match at WrestleMania. Definitely the match of the night. Definitely is going to be something we talk about for the rest of the year. When we look back at some of the best matches of 2020, we got 2 of those matches just this weekend. Edge and Orton and AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it is completely subjective. You can think whatever you want. You can think whatever you want about this being the best wrestling match of all time. In my opinion, best wrestling matches I've ever seen. Like I said, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. Sasha Banks versus Bayley from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 25. The list goes on and on and on. This will not be on my greatest wrestling matches of all time. It won't be. I'll definitely probably rewatch the match at some point. It was really good outside of the crowd noise. And it delivered. I just think putting that ridiculous tagline of this being the greatest wrestling match ever just really hurt it, in my opinion. I just don't know, what WWE was thinking. Yes, it got the job done. It delivered. But greatest wrestling match of all time? No. But Edge and Randy Orton should be damn proud of what they did. It was reported that Edge did suffer a torn triceps from this match. We don't know how bad it is. I didn't even notice it. Well, I think at the end of the match, you can see there was some bruising on Edge's right tricep. But until we get information on that, we don't know. If I was WWE, I would keep Edge out of action until SummerSlam. I kind of want us to get Edge versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam if that's possible. I feel like they could do a really good storyline with that, you know, but we don't know what's going to happen with Seth and Rey Mysterio right now. But still, you know, they tried to ask the question, did Orton ruin Edge's redemption story? Edge ain't going anywhere. You know, he may be sidelined for a little while because of the torn triceps, but Edge has nothing to be ashamed of. This was a great match. Not the greatest wrestling match ever, but it got the job done. If Edge is ready for SummerSlam, I think that's the next time we'll see him, especially now that he has the torn triceps. We'll just have to wait to find out the severity of that. And I'll probably have an update on that for the Monday Night Raw review for tomorrow. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys for the podcast tonight. We did over an hour and a half. We went really ham on the WWE Backlash review. And I want to thank you guys for joining me right here on the podcast. If you guys enjoyed, before you guys leave, make sure to leave a like on the video. It really helps me out. Leave a comment. What was your favorite part of Backlash tonight? What would you give it? Orton and Edge saved this show for me. All right. I was going into the main event, especially after the Street Profits and Viking Raiders debacle. You know, I was going into this main event and I was getting ready to give the show a thumbs down outside of Sasha Banks and Bayley and Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley's WWE title match. But Edge and Orton saved it. So I guess I'll give it a 50-50. You know, I'm not going to give it a thumbs up. It's very close. You know, but Orton and Edge legit saved this show tonight. What would I rate it? Probably about 6 out of 10. That's me being generous. Just because Orton was that good. That's the other reasons I just gave you. But if it wasn't for Edge and Orton, I would be giving the show a thumbs down. All right, I probably would have gave it like a 4 out of 10. All right, maybe a 3.5. All right, but other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining me here on the Legit Shoot podcast. If you guys were here for the full review, give you guys a like in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought of the show. Thank you guys for joining me. If you guys are watching on YouTube, no matter if you guys are listening on Spotify, listening on Google Podcasts, listening on Apple Podcasts, no matter where you guys are listening, thank you guys for your continued support. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. It's going to be a wild week. We'll be right back here tomorrow night for the Monday Night Raw review. Wednesday, NXT. Sasha and Bayley return to NXT to defend the women's tag team titles against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart, which is going to be spectacular. And of course, SmackDown on Friday. Thank you guys for everything once again. You guys are amazing. Follow me on social media on Twitter at GLorin33, GLORIN33. If you guys want to talk wrestling, anime, any of those things. But thank you guys so much for joining me here on the Legit Shoot podcast. Make sure to stay safe and healthy. Hopefully I'll see you guys for the Raw review. God bless, guys. Peace.